The recent ANC resolution calling on members charged with wrongdoing to step aside or face suspension has brought divisions within the party into sharp focus. A leaked recording from Jacob Zuma's virtual meeting with the ANC's top six last month also shows major mistrust within the party. In the recording, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is heard trying to convince Zuma that he's not plotting against him. Well, to speak to us about the state of the governing party and how it's dealing with current factional battles, we're joined by former minister and current ANC NEC member, Nomvula Mokonyane. Good evening, Ms. Mokonyane. It's a pleasure to be in conversation with you tonight. Part of your primary jobs right now is that, as the head of organizing, is that you've been tasked with rebuilding the ANC. What have you found to be some of the biggest challenges that you're facing as you go from branch to branch and province to province?
Good evening, Kathy, and thanks for the opportunity. Good evening once more also to the viewers. Let me also once more on behalf of the ANC convey our condolences to the two farm workers who were brutally killed in Mpumalanga over the weekend. As the ANC, in our January 8 statement, which is the program of action for 2021, we reiterated the commitments as adopted in the NASREC conference of renewing, reconstructing and uniting the African National Congress. The reason behind that resolution at Congress had to do with the state of organization, where many of our branches were dysfunctional in terms of their service to communities, in terms of having members who are in good standing and all of them are available to do organizational and political work. Also, there's been an absence of political education, serious divisions bearing on just the demobilization of the African National Congress. And lastly, the issues that had to do with getting into the ANC with expectations that have got nothing to do with the aims and objectives of the ANC. This has been a challenge. Worse than the pandemic, Corona, also did affect the African National Congress, and we had to adapt and ensure that we operate within those conditions that we find ourselves under. This is what we have been dealing with, and we are proud to say, although a lot has been done, we still have to improve, because it is only since the beginning of this weekend that our branches have now been given a go-ahead in view of the new coronavirus regulations to can now meet and convene their BBGMs, their biannual branch general meetings, so that we have credibly elected branch executive committees, a 2-year program of the branch, and of importance, a plan for the coming local government elections.
You are faced with these dysfunctional branches, as you've just told us about, at a time where the ANC is also deeply divided. What kind of message are you putting on the ground?
It takes a member and your commitment to the African National Congress, in line with the oath that one has taken, with regard to you self-correcting yourself and learning from one another and giving support to one another. And these are some of the things that we are working on together with the Subcommittee on Political Education that has put together a new program, which started now when we were in level 3, working together with our different provinces. During Corona level 3, we went around and we met with over 3,000 branches within the 4,326 wards in South Africa. And in those interactions, we found that there's been many of our members who are leaders of branches and regions who have hardly gone through the basics just of being a member and what it means to be a leader of the African National Congress where you live. So it is those things that we're putting political education in the center, and we're making it as simple and also accessible for different categories of members. We've put together a new membership system that now liberates a member from being a member of a member, but also giving more powers to the branches and avoid gatekeeping and imposition by the upper structures. However, we are quite conscious that the new membership system itself will not be a panacea to our problems because, again, we'll still need disciplined branch secretaries, we'll still need disciplined BECs, as well as disciplined members, because as we speak now, Kathy, in Mpumalanga, we have had incidents where we're told that one member has been killed because of a conflict in a branch by annual general meeting. That we must also condemn and convey our sincere condolences. This coming Tuesday, together with the Deputy Secretary General, we will be meeting with the PC of Mpumalanga, because even before the lockdown, there were these disruptions in Mpumalanga. The contestation for the provincial conference in Mpumalanga has been highly heated and highly contaminated. And what is of importance is that now the constitution of the ANC has put together what is called the National Dispute Resolutions Committee over and above the National Discipline Committee. That is chaired by the Deputy Secretary General. That deals with the details of the conflict, the details of who has failed the organization, and its decisions are final. They are not subject to any other body. So the Deputy Secretary General and her committee are going to be working with us in dealing with these issues. What is more exciting is that, yes, many of our branches have shown their readiness to become what is expected of a branch of the ANC. Over this period of COVID, a lot of work, we have had the COVID war rooms in line with the district delivery model of government, where our members have been doing a lot of community support, working with civil society and in support of government. As we speak now, many of our branches are involved in raising awareness and collecting information about those that must be the first to receive the vaccine, especially those with comorbidities, the indigent, the vulnerable families. And of importance, this is being done working together with our ward councillors and the ward committees. We are now busy also in participating in the elections of the school governing bodies, because even during lockdown, our branches were very involved in the preparation for the opening of schools. So the ANC is on a self-correcting path, and it can't be marred by those individuals who are still trapped in the factional positions in the interest of personal grandstanding and of importance in undermining the decisions of the organization.
How serious is this path of renewal, Ms. Mokonyane, when, of course, the ANC right now is facing serious questions of ethics and credibility, in particular around its leaders? And you yourself have not been exempt from some of the controversy around that. And there's some, in fact, who are suggesting and saying that when action is taken against different individuals of the ANC, your name is one of those that comes up. So how credible is the message that you're taking from the branches, given what the last 3 years have been like for you in terms of your own public, in terms of the public scrutiny that you yourself have been facing?
You know, it is only the ANC, Kathy, that has come out in public with the establishment of the Integrity Committee. It is only the ANC that has come out and set up what is called the National Electoral Committee, that is scrutinizing every individual who's availing him or herself for public office. As for me, just like many other people in the ANC, accusations and counter-accusations have been made against myself personally, and I have been to all those bodies that deal with these kind of issues. I've been before the Integrity Committee, I've been before various other institutions that have been established by the state, and I have always subjected myself, even as we speak now, to the discipline of the African National Congress. What is of importance is that we must not be dealing just with perceptions, we must also deal with facts, and we must allow the law to take its own course. As we speak now, I am saying everybody, starting with the president of the ANC, has been accused and counter-accused. And if we are just going to be dealing with accusations and perceptions and stuff, no one in the ANC will be spared. So we need to give the ANC the chance and the space to deal with matters internally and afford the leadership of the ANC to provide leadership and support members of the ANC who have shown commitment, many of them, just like this past weekend, yesterday and today, who have been all out throughout the four corners of this country, canvassing members of the communities to go out and register to vote on the 19th of May. So all is not lost in the organization. It is only the ANC that has stood this public scrutiny, and that has also created its own institutions over and above the institutions of the state. So I'm not immune from that. What is of importance is that I will rather allow a situation where scrutiny is done not through the court of public opinion, but through the proper channels. For now, I am remaining as a member of the African National Congress. And by the way, I have personally opted not to go back into public office. There is no institution of the state that has actually found me guilty. I have decided, not even the Integrity Committee, I have decided on my own, reflecting on what I have gone through personally, and opted to say what remains of importance for me is me being a member of the ANC, subjecting myself to the due processes of the organization, and anything that comes, I must be prepared to account for it.
We're going to continue our conversation with Nomvula Mokonyane. She's an ANC NEC member, and as you heard, they're also tasked with organizing on behalf of the party through different parts of this country. Do stay with us. So staying with News at Prime, we continue our conversation with ANC NEC member Nomvula Mokonyane. Ms. Mokonyane, one of the things that you said just a little earlier on in answering the questions and your own reflections on the state of your organization was that if we were to hold a standard that says everybody who is accused of corruption in the ANC due to these allegations and counter allegations that you've put it, that nobody would effectively be left spared. There are those who say that that is precisely why South Africa has an ANC problem, and that it is the ANC that has resulted in that has led to some of the socio-economic problems that this country is facing.
You know, we live in a world of social media now, including fake news. News are generated on the sides, they're generated by faceless people, and it's easy to just throw a name of an individual. Some in the media circles have not also been innocent in that. And precisely because of the character of the ANC, it becomes easy that anyone and everyone, where there has to be issues of accusations and counter-accusations, very little will be appreciated of the work done by the ANC, when in fact there is so much that the African National Congress, working together with the people of South Africa, has been able to do. Unfortunately, in the midst of all these factional battles and even the external interests of dividing the African National Congress, accusations and counter-accusations have been going across. But of importance, the ANC as an organization has remained very, very committed in its programs, in its policies, in its implementation of programs through it being a party that is in power, being able to implement some of the difficult programs. Our survival as a country during this COVID pandemic had to do with the commitment, albeit the internal challenges, where we saw the unity of the collective in cabinet, the support that government also enjoyed through our NEC, our structures, the tripartite alliance. And that on its own proved that there is still a lot that is good in the African National Congress. However, we must never underestimate the harm that goes with anything wrong that happens within the movement. And you are correct. you are correct to say there is now a view that the country is where it is because of the African National Congress. However, if you look at the state of the economy globally, globalization itself has been seen to have had its own challenges and weaknesses. This pandemic called COVID has actually exposed the fault lines of the economic condition.
Sorry to come in there. Long before there was COVID, this country was also grappling with issues of corruption. And the ANC, as it enters its campaign for the 2021 municipal elections, by and large, when it comes to some of the basic services that are needed in communities, it will also be campaigning on the back of broken promises. That's just the reality.
Long before COVID, the ANC has been one of those organizations that put together processes of self-correction, internal discipline and conflict management, and that has been seen through the establishment of the Integrity Commission, the Electoral Commission, our own discussions, and even the public review and the recall of some of our public representatives done by the African National Congress itself. And as we go into the coming local government elections, it will be the ANC that will first accept that there has been challenges that might have to do with our inabilities of fulfilling the commitments, not the promises, the commitments within the time that the ANC has given itself. But however, in line with the National Development Plan 2030, Vision 2030, those commitments have not been thrown aside. The interventions that have been made, some people may not appreciate. Just those that have been made, including now during these past months of COVID, have shown that a lot has to be done, but some of them have been able to cover those gaps that were glaringly missing. The interventions around the schooling system, the interventions around the social grants and the interventions from the Department of Small Business and Development, our economic turnaround strategy and the partnerships. We've now also become part of the African economic interventions, finding solutions, because our economy is not just an economy that is isolated from the world economy and the African challenges. So we have to have a better Africa. We need a better world order so that then we ourselves cannot suffer based on a globalized economy. Ours is not isolated. So we'll go back to local government elections, again canvassing for the ANC to be supported and the representatives of the ANC, because ours has not been a minimalistic program. It's a program in government that is based on the National Development Plan, Vision 2030. Ours is a program that concedes that the economic emancipation of our people is not just an overnight program. The land, the access to land and acquisition of land is what we are now busy with in terms of the public hearings and the parliamentary processes. The issues around gender-based violence and femicide, it is that we are mobilizing our people, and only the ANC has been the one that has been open to criticism, but also to self-correction.
Mrs. Mokonyane, apologies. I'm really keen to know what you would say in this very tone of describing the multiplicity of challenges, at least as you understand them from within the ANC. What you say to people of South Africa who have been waiting to see some kind of progress in their lives. And we can start easy, just using the example of COVID that you've given, that part of what COVID also did is expose the fault lines, right? It really showed the extent to which we live in an unequal society. But we have people that have struggled for decades and decades with access to water, something that you would also be familiar with. So if you were to go to Guyana today and campaign to those very people in Guyana who you promised sustainable water supply to during your time as water minister, that today have still not been able to access that water, how would you convince them that the ANC is going to be the best party to resolve their problems?
what will be important is to accept that not the entire area of Giyani has been provided with water, but the last report I have read coming from government indicates that about 90% of the work that was supposed to be done has been completed. The challenges, it's about reticulation, connecting the dams to the government, to the local government pipes, so that then water can reach different households. And that is what I have not just read, but it is something that is also happening. And of importance is that that program is not a program that has ended when Nomvula left. It is a program that has to proceed, because the ANC has not actually said it shall not proceed. So it is not as it is being projected that nothing has been done. Work has been done. It has not been completed at the stipulated time. Where there has been challenges, interventions have been made. Of importance, we're not dealing with problems that are 26 years old. We're dealing with problems of land dispossession over 300 years. We're dealing with our people who are in the far-flung areas away from where infrastructure is. We're dealing with old infrastructure that requires maintenance, and that has been put as part of the turnaround work that is being championed by Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa on infrastructure, and also balkanizing the entire infrastructure projects under the presidency through Kgosi Mamoepa. It helps to break the silo approach in government, and those are the things that government can better explain. But we know that some of these interventions will not be resolved just with the next term of local government. Our struggle is a protracted struggle. Our NDP is Vision 2030, and none of those commitments that are on the NDP have been thrown away. It may not be at the pace that South Africans want, but it is at the pace of the resources, and it is also at the pace of the demands that also now have been overcrowded by the pandemic and the delays that have to do with the inabilities of some of our structures, such as the weaknesses in local government.
I want us to quickly listen to part of what Julius Malema had to say. This was an address that he was giving at the EFF at the end of May, and it's about your own organization.
If you're having an independent National Prosecuting Authority, why is Gwede not charged about Bosasa? Why? Why is Gwede not being charged? Vincent's benefits are the same as that of Gwede. Why is Gwede not being charged? If you have an independent National Prosecuting Authority, and then Gwede goes to a commission and says, I don't know how much this thing costs. It was a friend of mine who did this thing. Not even his child. You know, when it's your child says, I'm putting cameras dead, you won't be asking how much is your son. But your friend, there's no way you want to ask Raymond. There's no way. So, Gwede must be charged. And I think we must demand that. We must demand that Vincent Smith's charges are the same as the ones of Gwede. Why is Mrs. Chicken not being charged? The receiver of chickens, Nomvula. Why is Nomvula not being charged? Who decides who gets charged? Because Nomvula got the chickens. So, it's a selective prosecution, and if it's a selective prosecution, it's not a prosecution at all, it's persecution. There are certain people being targeted.
What's your view on that, Ms. Mokonyane?
I will not validate Julius's utterances. He's a politician himself, and he's raising the issues about the NPA. I have no influence in the NPA. I think what the EFF must deal with are their own programs. They must be able to explain why they want to have local government elections postponed. If he was a detective and he knows what is the basis of his accusations, not me who's going to validate Julius.
A huge part of it also had to do with the step-aside resolution and why it's been implemented, and if in fact certain people are being targeted through the application of this resolution. What's your take on that?
The resolution is the resolution of the ANC. The resolution is the resolution that emanated from a protracted process that started with a National General Council and the policy conference of the ANC, and then subsequently adopted in the National Conference. Once more, I will not be like Julius, and I don't want to be like him, where I must now respond to a media conference convened by Julius. The obsession to always want to have media briefings about the ANC shows again the weaknesses on his side, but I will not give credit to him.
Do you think it's going to be easy for those members who need to step aside in 2 weeks' time to do that? Are you concerned about the impact of that on the organization if they don't?
I think, you know me, Kathy, I have never participated in any public contestation of decisions of the ANC. I put my energies and understanding of ANC positions once I'm inside the ANC's meetings. And I think all of us, whoever is affected by this, will apply his or her mind in the best interest of the African National Congress. And let's allow the due process, and let's give the ANC the space, rather than us preempting whatever that is going to happen in the coming 2 weeks. It's not a condemnation of comrades. We're in a path of self-correction.
Of course, it would be unprecedented waters given the fact that the Secretary General of your organization is one of those that is involved. Are you not facing these questions from members while you're busy organizing with the branches?
The interesting thing is that the guidelines have gone to branches, to provinces and to regions of the ANC. But as we go around doing door-to-door canvassing, like what one was doing yesterday, many people are raising issues of service delivery, they are raising issues of accountability of public representatives, and members of the ANC are actually calling for unity amongst those that are leading the African National Congress, and of importance, the renewal that it must not just be a renewal that we expect from them as ordinary members, but we need a renewal that is also demonstrated in our day-to-day work as leaders of the African National Congress. And that is what is coming across. All these interactions that we have had with our members, comrades are all saying yes. Resolutions, all resolutions of the African National Congress have to be implemented without failure. We can't be selective in choosing which resolution is most important. I would wish that we should also be much more worried about the issue of expropriation of land without compensation, the issues of access to quality education, the issues of gender-based violence and the Domestic Violence Act that calls for a serious review, and the work that has to do with the coming public hearings that have to do with domestic violence and even the rollout of the vaccine. That's what most of our members are preoccupied with.
Do you support the resolution, finally?
I'm bound by the decisions of the ANC. It's not a choice.
That was ANC NEC member Nomvula Mokonyane. Thank you so much for your time on News at Prime tonight.